Ashley Pikashram, and I am back with another video. As you can see from the title of this video, it says how to read more. And it's so crazy because I think I've done this video twice on this channel. I think I did just a regular version of this, and then I did a mommy edition of this. So I thought maybe it would be a good time to possibly do an update, because I have been getting a lot of comments either saying, how do you read so much? Or people are completely shocked by how much I read. People ask me, how are you doing this as a single mom and having a full-time job? How are you balancing this? So I am here to answer this question. This was not a video that I had planned on making, actually. I usually plan out all my videos for the month at the end of the previous month. So July's videos have been in the work since June. But I had to switch some stuff around, was rethinking, reviving some things that I had in my thought process, and I was like, I've been getting this question a lot. So let me go ahead and just answer this question, and hopefully I can encourage you all in methods to read more. I am not the end all be all when it comes to this. There are lots of videos out there that talk about how to read more, but I just thought from me to you, since so many of you have asked me, that I would directly answer this question for you. So for videos like this, I always like to give a disclaimer. As of today, the day that I am filming this video, I have read almost 150 books. That is a lot of books to have read in just a little over 6 months in an entire year. To be honest, a lot of us in the booktube community read a lot more than the average person. Most people will say that they've read 3 or 4 books in the past year, and all of us try to aim for things like, oh yeah, I'm trying to read 150 books this year, or I'm trying to read 200 books this year. I know someone who reads 300 or 400 books in a year. It's absolutely insane. So understand too that I think booktube does set this expectation that's not necessarily universal. It's not something that's necessarily common outside of our community. Another disclaimer is that I always want people to take my job into account when they look at my reading stats, okay? I am a librarian. It is my job to read. No, I do not read on my job all day long, but a big, huge component of my position as a teen librarian is to be aware of new teen materials that come out, or new books in general, new publishing trends, and whatever's out on the market. We have to be able to read a significant amount of materials in order to better do reader's advisory, which is book recommendations. We can't recommend books that we haven't read. So I am blessed enough that I get to use work time in order to work on reader's advisory. Like I said, not an all-day thing, but that extra chunk of time does give me a slight advantage over some people who may have to go to work and work a 9 to 5, and the only time that they could pick up a book is during the lunch break. Sometimes I can set aside an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and then I also have my break time and my lunch time. So then we're looking at multiple hours a day that I'm able to set aside and just focus on reading. I would also like to note that a lot of what I read is diverse, not only in characters, but in genre type. I read a lot of comics, graphic novels, manga, and single issue comics. And so what ends up happening, as well as picture books. So these books are typically shorter in length. They are easier to get through. Graphic novels are that. They are works of art that focus on the graphic part. There is text, but not as much text as a prose novel. I absolutely consume them like they're candy, especially when I need just a mental break from things that I have been reading. Picture books kind of give you a 1-up too, because there's only a few words on some pages. Some of them are longer, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is that these books typically you can finish in one sitting. We're talking picture books, probably about 15 minutes, if that, probably not even that. The longer ones, maybe 15 minutes, shorter ones, probably like 5. Comics, graphic novels, manga, 30 minutes, hour tops type of situation. So that also low-key inflates the numbers. So I always like to just include that as a disclaimer, so people are not just thinking I'm reading 150 books and they're all for 500, 600 pages each. And speaking about book length, that is also extremely important. Reading an 800-page book, depending upon the context of the book, whether it's epic fantasy, whether it's a classic, that's going to take you a little bit more time to read, as opposed to me reading a 300-page YA contemporary. It's just different writing styles, different formatting that makes one more accessible, in my opinion, than the other. I know that, for example, when I sit down and I read literary fiction, it takes me a little bit more time than if I was sitting down and maybe reading the latest YA contemporary. That doesn't take away from the beauty of each book. It's just that I feel, for me personally, one is more accessible than the other. And then when you start throwing in page counts, depending upon the accessibility of the book, that then draws out the amount of time that it takes to read the book. Okay, so one thing that's super important for me when it comes to reading as much as I read is book format. I always have something in every format available to me at all times. So I always have an audiobook on my queue, I always have an ebook on queue, and I always have a physical book on queue. That way, depending upon the situation, I can rotate in and out of whatever format that I would want. As a mom, though, I have found in the past few months, especially with baby girl getting older, it's daggone near impossible for me to read a physical book in front of her, because she wants the book. She wants to hold it. She wants to touch it. She wants to tear the pages out, because whatever mommy has, she has to have. It wasn't like that so much when she was younger. I could kind of get away with reading a physical book because she wasn't as mobile as she is now. But now that she is mobile, it's become a little bit more difficult for me to read a physical book in her presence. So I kind of time how I read books. When she's not around me, that's the time that I pick up my physical books, which is usually in the evening time when she's asleep. If I'm at home and she's at daycare, those are the two key times that I'm able to pick up a physical book. Because the timing is different, it ends up being a format that I read less of. Now with ebooks, I pretty much can read those whenever. I typically read them on my Kindle or my phone. It doesn't really make a difference. My child is not interested in either device. She's not really interested in my phone, which is so surprising. And she's also really not interested in my Kindle. So we could be in the same room, and if she's doing her independent playtime, I can pick up my ebook on my phone or my Kindle, although I don't really like doing that because I don't like using my device too much in front of her. I don't want her to build that association with constantly having to have a device in front of her. So sometimes that varies as well. One surefire thing that I always have that works in any situation, and especially works with her, audiobooks. So since I have become a mom, my audiobook listening has skyrocketed. I've always listened to audiobooks, but I have become super dependent on audiobooks, and it has been my go-to for everything. I mean, literally everything. I listen to audiobooks when we're going to her school in the morning. I listen to audiobooks on the way back. I listen to audiobooks when I pick her up. I listen to audiobooks when we come home. I have an audiobook playing while she's taking a bath. Sometimes if she's doing independent play, I can have an audiobook playing and she's kind of doing her own thing and I'm just kind of supervising. If I'm at work and I'm on the floor doing work, I have an audiobook playing through my headphones. So audiobooks are basically the way that you see me fly through a lot of materials in a month. You guys have seen my stats. You know this. I also believe that the speed in which you listen to an audiobook really determines how quickly you get through it. So depending upon the genre of the book, I can listen to a book from anywhere in between 1.5 to 2.0 speed. If it's a book that I've read before, 9 times out of 10 I can listen to it on 2.0 because I've already read it. I have a basic knowledge of the book. I don't really need to learn about the world because I already know so much about the world. If it is a newer book that I'm not as familiar with, I don't really know anything about the world, I'm not familiar with the author, not familiar with the writing style, I usually will start off at 1.5 just because I need to get accustomed to characters. I need to get adjust it to dialogue, and I don't like racing through a book and not understanding what's happening and then having to constantly go back and replay sections. Now, I typically have done that before just because sometimes you miss stuff when you listen to audiobooks, but for the most part I change the speed as I go. That way I know that I'm retaining as much information as possible. And because of the speed and the ability to listen to an audiobook when you're doing anything. I listen to an audiobook when I'm washing dishes. I listen to an audiobook while I am cleaning, when I'm cooking dinner. So I constantly have something playing, and if I'm listening to it on 1.5 to 2.0 speed, I usually can finish a book in between a day or two. There are books that I will start and then within 24 to 48 hours I am finished with the book because I am constantly listening to something. Now what I can do is, for those of you who are interested in audiobooks, just let me know in the comments, and what I can do is think about putting together an audiobook recommendations video. So at the time of recording this video, I have listened to over 140 audiobooks. So I have a huge stockpile that I can recommend to you all as far as like who has the best narrators, which ones are full cast, which ones have like full-blown studio recordings that make the whole audiobook experience extremely immersive. If you're interested in something like that, let me know in the comment box below and I can make that happen. So just to recap, I always have something going on in each format. Audiobooks are a blessing in disguise for me, and I listen to them at a certain speed, which helps me get through materials faster. And the last thing, honestly, because there's really not much advice to necessarily give, but the last thing is all about time management. Reading is a very pleasurable experience for me, so I make time for reading. That's not to say that I don't do anything else, that I don't have hobbies outside of reading, that I don't have friends outside of reading, but I do make time for reading because it is something that's super important to me. It always has been. It is my saving grace in a lot of ways. So I always make time for reading. People always ask like, well, how do you find time? You have to look at what you're doing throughout your day and where you can make time to read, whether you can listen to an audiobook while you're doing dishes or making dinner, or whether you can cut back your TV time for 30 minutes to an hour per day and use that time exclusively for reading. I do watch TV. I do watch movies. I am a junkie for trash TV, but I also limit how much I watch per day, and I try to make sure that I am effectively using my time in order to read. So I will set 30 minutes aside, like, okay, Ashley, you can watch 30 minutes of this TV show and then take 30 minutes and read, or listen to your audiobook. But it's all about making that time. If you don't make time to read, you will never read as much as you see some other people reading, because it is, as much as I even talk about like page count being a big thing, I also think that you have to make time for it, and that's the way that you'll be able to read as much as you see other people reading. I even make it a habit that whenever I go to the store, even now, even in the middle of a pandemic, which is so crazy that I used to do this, and now it's effective. I used to put my headphones on when I went to the grocery store because I don't like talking to people in public. I am in a public facing job. I love working with the public, but when it's on my own personal time, especially because I'm front facing so much and because I deal with the public so much, there are times when I become very insular and I just want time to myself, even if I'm in a public setting. So it's kind of like an on and off switch for me. Like if I'm on my job and I'm immersed in what I'm doing, like that's 8 hours of constantly being high energy, in your face, really engaged with people. So by the time that I get finished with those 8 to 9 hours a day, I just want time to myself. So to help me get out of situations and being forced to engage with people on my own private time, I would put in headphones because people are less inclined to talk to you. At first I used to listen to music and I was like, you know what, I actually could be listening to an audiobook right now while I'm doing grocery shopping because I hate it anyway. Maybe this will help me get through the process more quickly. So now it is actually a habit. If I go anywhere in public and I'm doing like grocery shopping or just shopping in general, I put my headphones in, and it's a great experience and you get reading done. So when I go to the grocery stores that you guys see in my vlogs on Fridays, when I go to the grocery store, by the time I'm doing all of that and by the speed that I'm listening to all of that on, I'm probably getting at least 2 hours of an audiobook listened to. And if the audiobook is only 6 hours to begin with, you're already looking at 30% of a book finished in that short period of time. So it really is really a big thing about time management and how much time you want to commit to reading. I still make sure I spend time with my daughter. There are times when I go completely dark on social media and everything, like I'm completely not as active, because those are the times that I'm spending time with my daughter and I'm fully engaged in her. So that there is times when I'm like, okay, I'm pulling back on reading because my daughter comes first. And I notice too, for me, it is easier for me to read a lot during the week as opposed to the weekends. So during the weekends, I don't read as much because, you know, she's at home all day on the weekends. There's no school. It's just the two of us. So we are mostly in each other's faces all the time during the weekends. So I expect not to read as much on the weekends unless it's at night. During the week, I have during the day to read outside of my work meetings and all that other stuff. All right, y'all, so that is it. Those are my suggestions for how to read more. Like I said, if you all want to see a audiobook recommendation, so you have an option of some audiobooks that might be really fun to make it through. If you're new to getting to audiobooks, I could just do like a full video on like how to get into audiobooks, like speeds, what resources to use, what audiobooks to check out. I can make that video happen. That way you have some options to choose from. But I just wanted to give you all insight to exactly how I get my reading done, because I think a lot of people are like, how are you a full-time mom, a full-time worker, and you still are cranking out X amount of books a month? There's a lot of factors that contribute to that, but I hope this has given you some clarity and it's given you some transparency about how I do my reading. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to know a little bit more, just ask me in the comment box below. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All of my social media links will be down in the description boxes below, as well as the link to my Patreon, which just launched today. Nothing is going to change on this channel. I still upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Do not feel obligated to join. This is just a way for those who are interested in seeing bonus content and are looking for ways to support my channel. I just wanted to give that opportunity as well. Other than that, I'm looking forward to hearing from you all soon, and I'll be back with another video.